You could be really comfortable in life and not change and not learn, or you can take the opportunity to change, which is very hard.
Yeah.
But what's on the other side of learning who you are and stepping into that and your gifts and being better and healthy and well, there's nothing like it.
Welcome back. Another show, Visionary Leader, Jim Robinson here. Today's a really exciting day, and you guys are going to want to really tune into this. We have a brand new co-host to help me with these shows, and we're going to welcome Lori Prust to the show today, and I'm going to have her introduce herself to you. But I got to give you a couple of pieces here. You got to pay attention, people. Pay attention. This is a person that has designed her life to support other women in business. She is here to build people up, to help you get from the stumbling blocks to the other side of success stories. From the other side of pain is absolute growth and possibilities. Pain is first, though, and she's going to help you today. I got to introduce you. Lori Prust, welcome to the show, and tell us, who is Lori Prust?
Thank you, Jim. I'm so excited to be here and part of the Visionary Leader podcast. It's amazing to have the opportunity. And Jim, have the opportunity to walk alongside of this great podcast that we have with amazing people that tune in and listen and look for wisdom and share wisdom back with us. And so a little bit about me. I'm Lori Prust, and I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'll share some of that on the personal side. And me and my husband, Tony, we've been married 32 years in June, and we have 2 grandbabies, which is crazy. We have 1 daughter, her name's Anna, and 2 grandbabies that are little and amazing, and we love this time of life. So I just want to share that with everybody quickly. And I've been in product and technology for over 30 years, and kind of tried to find my way through what that meant as I watched leaders and I learned, and I was young in my journey in corporate, started in 1996. Actually, started quite a bit before that, watching leaders and learning and not really having a clear direction of where I was going, but learned so much that I can share on this podcast, and was able to see amazing leaders and experience what that looks like, but then also leaders that I knew I wanted to operate a little bit different. So yeah, I have a background in more on the engineering side than the product side. And then as of about 2022, my heart started to stir a bit more, and Jim was a part of this. So I want to share that with everybody. And I think there's something else for me, something that I feel called to do that is aligned with people. And I love people. My heart is people, and everything that we do, whether it is a strategic leadership idea or something that we're going to, or we have this great vision, it always includes people. So that is my heart. So when you think of this podcast and how Jim and I will work together, is really, I see all the people. I love the people. I love how we're all so different and we're diverse, and we have different strengths that we can leverage to carry out these visions that we have. And so, yeah, 2022, living back there, had an idea that there's something else. And Jim said, well, go do it. I don't, those aren't exactly, Jim, the words, right? But you had said, go do it.
It probably took me about 8 hours to say, go do it. But
yeah. And I thought, oh, wow, I can really go do this. But I was in this box of where I had been in technology for so long that that's what I knew. Instead of a calling to do something else, that I could take some of my strengths and gifts, which are really aligned to the relational side of leadership. So I started Soar Clarity Coaching with my daughter, who's Anna, like I just shared about Anna. And we have been navigating the journey of what it looks like to give back and lead and grow. And we've spent time in the nonprofit space with women who haven't had the same opportunities, who just had different hardships. So we've had opportunities to walk with them and lead and show them what it looks like to have emotional intelligence and do different things. And so then also, so there's this philanthropic side of what I'm doing, but then also the day-to-day in technology, there's so much opportunity to lead people, care about people, see them for who they are. And so that's a bit about me, Jim.
So we're saying that there's hope for the geeks of the world in the tech world.
Yes.
You know what we're saying? Holy mackerel, our listeners have got to tune in.
Where would we be without the geeks? Where would it be that
we got to have them? They
Go
made
ahead.
this possible. They made this microphone possible. Thank goodness they're there. Let's dive a
Yeah.
little bit deeper in kind of your background, Lori. Let's have this conversation about where you coming from on this corporate side of things and where that brings you to today, basically. The self-awareness, the emotional intelligence,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
personality tools, and you talking about getting certified in Enneagram, because I know a few things about you. And let's where did that start from? Like, when did that get inspired? And those awareness, like that self-awareness. We say self-aware before you can be other aware. There's a lot of content to that. And when you're
Huge.
other aware, then how are you going to serve the other? Like, it's easy to figure out who we are, and then we can just be self-serving and, the self-centric figure all the time. It's clearly not who you are. And so that
Mm.
corporate background has kind of influenced some things and made you become more aware of things. Dig deeper in that. Self-awareness, the strengths, the blind spot awareness, the emotional intelligence, Enneagram. Dig deep in that just for a minute so our listeners can pick up on some things here.
You got it. And one of the things is in technology, what stirred me to figure out it was who I was, because I had not invested enough time years ago to say, who is Lori? What are my strengths? I was going towards whatever anybody wanted me to do. And I think that might be the story for many people is we get validations and we look for some kind of nod, some kind of approval to say, this is who you are. Oh, this is who I am. Then you head that way. And if someone doesn't think you look the right way, if you act the right way, anybody we interact with, that can really shift your mindset to where you don't understand your identity. You don't know who you are because you're looking for that from other people. And that happened to me. And so I'm just following good leaders, getting some pats on the back without digging into my strengths and using skills and gifts and things like strength finders. And so it was running up against a couple leaders that didn't take time to understand me, that friction was too much. Just generally speaking, of it didn't feel good. And so I went exploring. Well, I look a little different and I sound a little different and my strengths are different, but why does it feel wrong? Why do I feel like I don't belong? And I didn't know myself, Jim. So to your point, I didn't understand who I was so that I could feel confident and stable in where I was. I was looking for other people to tell me. And when they had a different opinion, and people's opinions change all the time, then your view of yourself will shift, right? So if you're looking constantly for other people, it's going to change with the wind. And so that's what I had done, had experiences with different leaders and didn't know myself. So I went on the journey of there's something here, and that was where our conversation was. And I really explored strength finders to find out what my top strengths are. And once I started to uncover, oh, this is what I'm great at. I see this show up here, 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 and here. That's validating. That's confirming. And then I started to realize how I want to go down the path of really understanding myself better, like I said, but then other people. So that is Enneagram, which is your personality. And at the core of the Enneagram is really, it's another tool that we can use to understand ourselves, but it's your motivation. It's if you're driven by fear. And I know on this podcast, we talk about that. We talk about how fear sometimes will drive us to do things based on stories in our past that we just need to be aware of that. So the Enneagram allows you to understand where I'm strong, the stories that I'm believing, and then what I look like when I'm in stress so that I have this awareness, I put the right tools in place, and then I can see other people.
Yeah.
So when you're too busy trying to figure your own self out and the stress that you have and the blockers you have, I could not see the people around me. I was so trying to figure out my issues that I just didn't have any margin to say, Jim, I see you. So-and-so, I see you. I couldn't do it. So, and also go ahead.
There's an underlying piece of this puzzle, man, and our listeners got to hear this right now. Those things happening for Lori is what brought her to today. Literally, her recognizing her ability to lead was because she was recognizing that she mastered following, and it was exhausting until you become a leader. When you become a leader, you still master following because that even in leadership roles, you still got to be able to master the following part. You got to follow other leaders to be a better leader tomorrow. And so she brings out some amazing points that I'm hoping you guys are tuning into this because she felt the imposter syndrome in a big, profound way. Like, well, who am I? I don't even matter. And the reality was, is things were happening for her to build her to this moment. painful because there's no gain without the pain. We have to go through those discomfort pieces. I had to do it. I had to do it through high school when I figured out, okay, I got to lead. I got to figure out, but I got to learn I got to earn their trust. I got to ask them, is it okay? Can I lead you now? I got to tell them up front how I'm going to lead them. And then I started to discover, wow, there's a lot of power in that. And now I have a bigger responsibility to keep that. And I have to grow myself. So Lori brought up such amazing points there, is sometimes when you are going through those things, you feel like you're only doing what you're told. In some cases, you're only following somebody else's directives, not inspiration or influence. But they're giving you directives and you're just going to the beat of the drum, really. And that becomes incredibly self-awareing, like you become super self-aware in those moments. And that's when the shift changes. So for our listeners and our viewers, really pay attention to that. When that time arises, that's when it's time for you to rise. It's literally shift gears. In this show, I have certifications in DISC and the assessment beyond DISC. Lori's bringing Enneagram to this game. We're going to get through some stuff. We're going to dig deep. Lori's got some cool corporate background stuff. I've been in business for over 40 years. I've employed thousands, and I can tell you personality characteristics matter, but it's aligning those personal purposes and characteristics using Enneagram and DISC to align them best with your company. If you align their natural character of who they are with the position you're putting them in, there's a dual purpose behind that. It's the business purpose, it's their purpose. And if that aligns, get out of the way because you're about to change the world with a couple of people and one position. It's kind of nuts. Lori, what else you got to add? And then we're going to dig deep on some questions.
Okay. I would just, Jim, I appreciate that so much, the understanding the Enneagram and the DISC so that I remember thinking in my career, I had a leader who I knew I had so much to share and do and provide and give, but there was not an opportunity to share what those things were. And I kept thinking to myself, just what you said, but I can solve such great big problems because I am a restorer. I'm an arranger. I'm really good with people. Put me in this. I'm relational. We'll build this and we're going to solve some big problems. But that leader at the time could not see that. And I think it's such a missed opportunity when we don't see our people, their strengths, and then pair that with what we can go do for our business.
Yeah, and for our viewers and listeners, man, you don't need a test to figure this out. We do this organically. You just got to be self-aware, and then you got to be aware of your people. And those people around you are telling you in uncertain terms all day what their strengths are. And we as leaders, we have a moral obligation to make sure we're embracing those and building on those. We literally got to say, hey, Johnny, hey, Mary, Sue, here's what I see. Do you align with this? Am I just seeing crazy stuff or is this who you are? And if we do that as leaders, wow, we just changed the world because we did that one person at a time because they decided to change, not because we did. Literally pay attention to what Lori's telling you guys. She is saying somebody ignored her for a long time. The coolest part of that is she became Lori Prust as we know her today. So those negatives have made her this powerhouse that she's going to keep sharing with you guys because there was a learning opportunity there to literally change the world. So those leaders were influencing her. They weren't paying attention to her, but they made her self-aware. And she became who she is today because of those experiences. That's cool stuff. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. The one thing I want to share with everybody is when it starts to be so painful that you can't ignore it, change has to happen. And that's what happened. I stopped being comfortable seeking someone else to tell me who I was and what I was good at. And it stunk. Like it was painful. I was unhappy. And at that point, if you're hitting that, there's change. You need to change. Something needs to change. There's something else for you.
And leaders listening to that even, Lori, is they need to be paying attention because their companies are about to get damaged. Yes. When you are inflicting that much pain on somebody, shutting them down, ignoring their true giftedness, taking them out of the game, so to speak, and not hearing them, Your companies will be damaged as a result of that individual staying there. You need to show them grace to the front door. You need to be graceful enough to show them, here's what we're going to do, and we'll shift this because there's an opportunity banging away at the door. Let's seize the moment. And some of these leaders are missing this opportunity, man, and watch. That's why businesses go out of business in 5 years. We know these statistics, these numbers. Leaders think they're leaders. They're not. They're managers. They're process and systems driven, not influential and impact driven. They need to pay attention because they're destroying their businesses because they're destroying people. Let's go. We got to get scripted here. We got to get onto these questions. We got a lot to cover today. So I'm stoked to have you, Lori. I know your background. I know your heart. And that's why we wanted to do this team up. And I think we're about to impact the world in a profound way. And I'm excited for our listeners, what they're going to hear in these shows. You spent 30 years in the corporate world. 30 years working for these. And listen, people, she's 35. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
She started at 5 years old, 30 years in the corporate world, several years in the leadership side of all of that, right? You got teams and you're leading people. What experience? What does that experience teach you about leadership? Real workplace environments. We probably touched on this. Let's dig a little bit deeper in this. What is those 30 years in the corporate world? What did it teach you about leadership?
That leadership is really influence, right? So it's how people are influencing, and that can be a strength, and that can be something that gives you the outcomes that you need, or it can be damaging to the team and the company and the things that you have. I have learned vulnerability and a relationship wins every time. And I know there's probably a balance here of vulnerability and what you share, but I also think it's so good to share, I have a problem, I could use your help, when you talk to your team members and you bring them into the things that we need to solve, because we don't always have the answers. And so when I've brought people into just learning who they are, having one-on-ones, spending time listening and asking really good questions, they want to help solve the problems that, as long as I'm sharing them vulnerably, I mean, I have the answer. Transparently, we have a problem. Let me share it with you. I would love your help. So when I bring people into those type of things and how I'm doing and where I need their support and their strength, it goes really far. So I would say over 30 years, it's been leadership is influence, and it can be pretty damaging and it can be amazing. And I've had both types of leaders that I've worked with and had the opportunity to be around. And yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, I mean, like, out of those leadership lessons, you're talking about some things that cause damage in some cases. We have the ability in those roles to really hurt people or really inspire their next level. And a lot of leaders may not be paying attention to this. I always say I'm not a good manager because I'm not processing systems. I don't like to function in that space. And for me, it's a coaching piece I like to talk about, because some leaders, and I'll put up air quotes for the folks, we changed a few years ago where we just call everybody a leader if you're not at the entry level. And I thought that was reckless back then. I think it's reckless today. Most people have evolved past that. We went back to saying you're a manager, you're a next level manager, leadership. Leadership is about impact and influence. Management is about process and systems. It's designing them and impacting them being done. And if you become really influential as a manager, people will see you and then they'll want you to be in that leadership role. And that's a big thing. That's a big evolution of responsibility. Some of those things that have impacted you over the years, Lori, what stands out? Like, what's one of the big lessons that you remember the most? Like, if I did this, that's what the result would be.
So it's going to go back to people, because as I was pondering our conversation today, it really is so much about people and enabling them and utilizing some systems and process. So you and I are a little bit different in that and not so much maybe different, but I've used rubrics like career skills, expectations, helping people understand what we expect of them, and sitting down with them to walk through, tell me where you think you are using data, using a framework. That's where it's so handy. And they come and bring to the table, this is where I think I am. And then I'll come to the table, this is where I see you. And then we can bridge these gaps. But one of the big ahas is when you sit down and you invest in those conversations of where, okay, this is what you expect of me based on data. And this is where I think I am. And so and let's meet in the middle. And then let's get a plan to get you to where you need to go. In some of the hardest environments, I worked at Dropbox for a little bit. That was a really hard culture. And I had the most promotions in the group after multiple layoffs, multiple just hardships and things that had gone on in the company. And just some ahas is we had the most growth. And I had a tough leader at the time, really hard leader, different values. We shared very different values, but just speaking into people, even in that type of culture and environment. But I remember my leader looking at me saying, "Wow, we have so many promotions," and I just shocked about that. And so that just speaks to the investment we can make in our people. And it was a wow. Even at this micro level of all that was going on at that large company, I was able to have that impact by giving people a process, a rubric, something they can look at to say, I see what you expect of me. And I think I'm here and you think you're there. And then we get you where you want to go. It's magic. And they're solving more problems because they're excited. So it's just one Jim, of just
and they don't miss any sick days. Well, it's crazy when they feel empowered. They just show up and they do things, and wow.
Yeah.
I got to tell you a story about a guy that still works with me, by the way. He's been with me over 30 plus years, and he's in customer service. And this is very crazy, but he used to come in and says, I hate people. And he would regularly get notifications from the client to us saying, wow, this guy's amazing. He's so kind. He's so caring. He's so talented, blah, blah, blah. And they couldn't brag enough on him. And then he'd sit down and he's like, no, I hate people. I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'm like, wow, what a cool opportunity for me as a leader is I had to learn that in those moments is when we really do have to lead. Like we have to impact that because that was obviously a conflict, internal conflict saying, I hate people, but they love me. That's not accurate. There's something else going on there. And so I dug deeper. He's still with me, by the way. And he's an amazing person just to meet him. And he does genuinely, truly care about people. And he just had a blind spot back then. And so in the leadership is you have those aha moments because of unique circumstances or something shows up. It's an opportunity to show compassion, care, empathy. It's literally how do you get from A to B? It takes a leader to be able to do that. I was on this morning with that same guy. He was in Costco yesterday, and the guy helping him get his new card ready to go, he tells me the story this morning, and he says, did you used to work at Starbucks? And Norman says, matter of fact, I did, and I still do. We happen to have Starbucks as a client. We still do a lot of work for them. And he's like, I haven't worked there in 15 years, but I remember you because you impacted me.
Wow.
And you did that in a positive way, and you were so kind. And my comment is he doesn't remember what you fixed for him. You fixed his day. And that's an emotional attachment. That is him on leadership level. He impacted and influenced this man 15 years ago, and he still remembered him when he walked into the Costco where this guy now works. That's true impact. That's impact. And he does love people, by the way. He's not confused anymore. He's embraced who he is.
That's amazing. Good story.
So leaders struggle most in communication. We talk about this all the time. People think sometimes it's just more quantity. Like you got to yap more, you got to have more meetings, and that's not accurate. It's about quality of communication. Could be short and sweet and really get the point across, and that's good, effective communication. Pressure, understanding their teams. What do leaders struggle with the most in all of this stuff? The communication, the pressures, personal pressures. Yeah, understanding their teams. What's it like a big struggle they might have?
Just some of the things I've seen is there is pressure, right? We have a bottom line, we have numbers we have to hit. And when that starts to come down the chain, you feel that. The teams feel it. You want to move fast, you want to move swift, you want to just share. Leaders want to share, this is what we need to do, and I need everybody to go. And I believe the harm sometimes in that is we don't leave margin for what questions do you have? Have I talked about the problem we're going to go solve? Can I tell you about why it's important? So we rush so fast because we feel such pressure to make things happen for the business. We don't allow a pause. And I'm big on pause in life. Just take a minute, look around the room and see if people are with you. Do they understand? Do they have any questions? Take time for that up front. I think when we're moving so fast in business, it's serious. We have a lot of things we need to do. We need to achieve our goals. Teams feel that if we cut corners and don't allow time for and seeing if there's understanding. What are we doing? Why are we doing? Tell me my role again and how I can be part of this. I really want to solve it. We are going so fast. And then we move so fast, we're making assumptions. Then our people are making assumptions because they want to deliver, because they want to do good work. And then we're doing rework. We miss the deadlines. We miss some points. We didn't have time for questions. So missing a pause in the midst of what feels very chaotic, allow the team to just sit for a minute. It will pay dividends. I see this a lot. I've seen it my whole career. We get something from executive leadership and we need to move fast. And everybody kind of freaks out because you are afraid you might fail. I need to move fast. We don't allow time for people to ask questions. And they have the answers. They have the answers. Our team members have the answers.
They do.
They're gonna, I know. And so I see that a lot. And it causes this chaos.
Yeah. They say we don't manage people, we manage the process and systems, and the people manage themselves. And that was a big aha moment for me so many years ago, was like, wow, I thought I'm supposed to manage people. That just, because nobody likes to manage people. And I guarantee you, if you're trying to manage people, you really don't like your job. You're struggling. But if you're managing process and systems and making them streamlined and effective, your team will actually manage the company in totality, and they'll deliver on you. One of the things we talk about in the communication is everybody's moving breakneck speed, right? And customers are buying breakneck speed versus anything else right now, more than ever in my career. And if you can't deliver fast, they just move on. We say they coach you or they quit you. And if they're spending time coaching you, man, you better listen, because that buyer is really saying, here's what I need from you. Here's how you can meet my needs, and I'm going to be here forever. Or they just quit calling. So we say that you got to slow down if you want to speed up. You have to slow down if you want to speed up. That is so imperative, because people need to be able to breathe for a minute, not just be in breakneck speed all the time. We're not NASCAR. We have rails. We got to stay on those rails. We got to go fast. But you got to slow down if you truly want to speed up. You got to spend time practicing that. It has to become a normal for the team. Guys, we're going to take a pause. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go break bread together. We're going to sit and we're going to order a pizza today. We're just going to hang out and we're going to chill for a minute. We're going to slow down because we're about to go faster. But we got to really be intentional in doing that. That's so important. Wow. Anything else on that, Lori?
That just what I've seen. And then chaos. And we miss the dates and it's just this spiral. I guess one other thing, I lied a little bit to you. I think one other thing with that is it's not all critical. So if they're bringing something else in, something else should probably go, and allow the team to voice concerns there and do great work, And so I think a lot of times we don't acknowledge something is coming in. The bandwidth is still the same. Our capacity is still the same. Let's talk about what now shifts so that we do great work. When I asked a leader recently, he's in chaos and feels very much chaotic. I said, what's happening? Like, let's go deeper. What is really worrying you, other than requirements are changing and we can't make our minds up? And, I keep our team trying to lead my team and things just keep changing. And it was really the fear of not being able to succeed in the environment.
Yeah. I think too that I've seen over the years, managers, particularly newer managers that just haven't got the experience yet, is they tend to squeeze tighter and create more rules when there's a failure or lack of speed and delivery. Yes. And so they make more rules, and that just makes it incredibly difficult on your team if you're just making more rules and not eliminating. And for that, we came up with what's broken, missing, or needs to be eliminated. And that's usually agendas in our meetings that we say, what's working well? How can we capitalize on that? What's broken needs to be looked at, fixed, and then what needs to be gotten rid of. If we're adopting some new platform, something different, you got to let something go. You got to give up to go up, as John Maxwell says, give up to go up. You got to be able to get rid of some of the rules. If you look at the political figures, here, we can pick on California for a minute. They adopt 700 or 800 new laws twice a year, but they don't get rid of anything. They don't get rid of anything. So the society as a whole really gets squeezed to a failure. So you get out of bed and you're already failing in the legal system because they just created so many rules. There's no possible way you'll ever know all these rules. It's difficult in business the same way. There's just a lot of rules, a lot of governing bodies and so on. So don't create more rules for your team. Give them the freedom to fly. Give them the wings. Literally let them fly, but tell them what we're getting rid of. We're going to add this piece because we think it's going to streamline, but we're getting rid of this, and be clear in that communication. I think that is true leadership. Lets things go and don't just create a lot of new rules.
Yeah, the rules I've seen that leadership, Jim, what you just talked about, where there's more control needed. So we add more rules.
Yeah.
So people have to follow these rigid rules. That makes it very, very challenging. And tying in the Enneagram, a lot of times when you want control, it's a certain personality type that will lock down that type of control. So that's where this comes into your leadership style, is how are you going to respond based on your personality, and how are you going to lead in times of stress and chaos? It's going to look different for everybody. You might have a type that disappears. We can never find our leader. Where is he? He's gone. She's gone.
Yeah.
She's a certain personality type that needs information, and they withdraw to go find it within themselves. So we're going to be like, where'd Johnny go? Oh, something crazy just came up. Something happened. But that's where you learn, okay, my default's going to be I'm going to withdraw. I won't be visible to my team. I've got to work on that. I have to be aware of that, and then I can do something different when I get into stress.
Wow. In your coaching, you've worked heavily on the self-awareness, the strengths, kind of discovering the blind spots. I mean, in your coaching, do people, do they know their blind spots? How do they discover blind spot? Like, whoa, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's such a good question, how to be self-aware. So there's assessments you can take. And for the Enneagram, there's something called the Ready. And it's an assessment you can take. And it's about 60% accurate because it's based on our knowledge of ourselves. We don't really know ourselves, so it's at about 60% accuracy.
Yeah.
But you use it as a tool, as an input to just start saying, that resonates. Oh, that piece right there. The moment you decide I want to be intentional to understand myself, go use all these tools, DISC, Strength Finder, ask the people closest to you a certain amount of questions. Tell me more about how I'm perceived and how you see me handle X, Y, and Z. So when you get set on wanting to learn about yourself, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. It's really consciously, intentionally paying attention. How did I respond to this person? And that's personal. That's in personal life, and then also in your professional life. It's all around. You want to watch how you're behaving, thinking, acting, and what's coming out. That's how you start becoming aware. And then once you have some knowledge, what do I want to do with what I know? So part of my Enneagram, which I think I've shared with you in a prior episode, is the helper. So I want to be wanted and needed. And that comes, there's pros with that. And then there's a lot of cons with that. And so it's being aware that I was overworking to constantly be needed, looking for an external head nod, good job, way to go, and avoiding some of the other things I really wanted to do in life and foregoing who I was. I didn't have time because I was so busy chasing some fear.
Unknowns, yeah.
The unknown. So until you become intentional, again, when the friction's strong, start paying attention. What is in conflict? Is it your values? Do you say, I always love nature and I really want to take care of my body and I love to, but you never do it? Something's in conflict. So if we think our values are family and we don't see our spouse but twice a week and talk for 20 minutes, something's out of alignment. I think it's when you start unpacking some of these things using values, tools like this, Enneagram, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And it's hard. Like you said, Jim, it's coming. You could be really comfortable in life and not change and not learn, or you can take the opportunity to change, which is very hard. But
Yeah.
what's on the other side of learning who you are and stepping into that and your gifts and being better and healthy and well, there's nothing like it. There's just nothing
Yeah.
like
It's crazy because I think our creator has such an amazing sense of humor and how we were created. There's a saying that, our strength is our curse and our curse is our strength. It's literally my conversation earlier about the guy that works with us that I hate people, but yet
it.
they all love me. And it's literally his strength is engaging people and making them feel comfortable with him there because he was so trusted. And that was his curse, is that I got to interact with all these people. And today he embraces that. But that was a self-awareness journey. That was literally finding that mirror moment, look in that mirror and say, what's going on? Why am I discovering this? By design, we organically go through these processes. And then, starting in the 60s and 70s, they started creating all these tests. And now we've been able to label it. And I'm not a giant on the label, but I do appreciate the tools now because
Tools.
they accelerate our learning journey. Like, they accelerate us really quickly. And at 20, you can learn what the 50-year-olds spent their life learning, and you can do it at 20 because of the test. So then I got a question for you, Lori. The personality tools, how do they help leaders become more effective for their teams?
Mhm. It's a little bit of what I was just sharing. I love the question. There's a couple things I want to answer here about that. So, based on your personality, you might control. If you look at someone that's an Enneagram 2, which is the helper, we're going to lean in and do way more than we should. And then we're going to be spiteful that my partner over here didn't do enough. But we overdid it to get the satisfaction that we're good and you like me and you're going to keep me and okay. But then you get resentful. And so when you look at that and you're a leader as a 2, you need to pay attention to not overstepping and overdoing what you should be delegating and allowing those people to shine and just allow them to do that and you step back. So it's overdoing based on the fear that we have. I worked with a couple, 3 women. It was an amazing opportunity to see how they would work together. They were starting a business together. And so from a compatibility standpoint, we sat down and we walked through the Enneagram and I walk through with them where they're going to seamlessly, it's going to go well, and where they're really going to struggle. And one of them was a 9 who's a peacemaker, or peacekeeper, and she has a lot of opinions, but she wouldn't share them. So she'll say, yes, that's great. I love it. And then she's going to go and do something different or never do what she said she committed to do. As a leader and a partner in a business, that's not going to go very well. So that was an opportunity for her in that type of personality to share my opinion with respect. This is how I feel and let it be heard. They don't like conflict, obviously. And so they want to mediate and keep things good, but there's a cost. So then the other 2 were actually both helpers. So they're both 2s. They're both going to overdo it. They're both going to overdo and overstep, and they might be mad at each other for, you've done too much, you've done too much. So we
Yeah.
talked about the structure we could put in place based on how they're wired and motivated to work.
It's funny. The 2 is very similar to the I and the DISC. It's very similar to that. It's literally, we call them the memes. And it's, you hear me sneeze, hear me walk, hear me talk, hear me, hear me, hear me. If I do one thing good, I can do all things good. And that's really that really high I. And there's a lot of similarities in that too. It's really kind of crazy how everything kind of aligns that way. Using these tools, like, what else does it share from that leadership standpoint? Like, how does a 20-year-old coming into leadership, they may have some inherent things that they just learned from a parent or grandparent, et cetera, and they're going to fit into this. How do they use some of these tools to accelerate their learning opportunities of what their people are like?
This is something I've just been thinking a lot about is as a new leader, we've talked about it, I think, a few times. It's just knowing who you are. Take this time. If you want to be a leader, you want to be a manager, you want to work with people, I want to rise up, the ladder. It's taking that first step to learn, take a piece of each tool. They're going to have some nugget for you to pull together and say, okay, this fits with what I want to do. I see this as a roadblock for me or something that I need to do a little different based on where I want to go. I think that's where mentors are also happy or really helpful, is finding somebody that can help you reach your
Yeah.
desires.
Yeah.
Take the information and share it.
Have a coach. Have that
Have a
mentor.
coach.
If you want to get better at what you're doing, you want to be the first cross finish line. Coaches help you get there. They
Right.
help you win. You got to find somebody to help coach you through that stuff. I don't care who you are. The highest leader of the leaders, they have coaches. And they have them in different spots in their life. If you have 5 or 6, 7 categories of goals, they got 5 or 6 people mentoring, coaching, teaching, training, inspiring them to be their best. I have coaches. You should have coaches. Everybody needs a coach of some kind. You choose, but we need to be led, inspired for that. Here's a cool one. This one is really cool because a lot of leaders tend to hide stress. Like they just freaking, I'm the leader around here. I get it. Nobody's going to know how stressed I really am. And I always use the presidency of the United States as an example. People say, well, I didn't have time to do that. I'm like, do you think the president ever said that? I don't really believe that they don't. They only have 24 hours just like we do. But leaders operating under stress rather than clarity, I don't know that that's the exact comparison, but the stress, when they're functioning from a stress, what are some telltale signs? I guarantee you your people are watching this because they're picking up on these signs of their leader. What does it mean, Lori?
Just a couple tidbits in my mind about that is when I get stressed, or I've seen it, right, both ways,
Yeah.
you're not listening. Usually stop listening. And you have something to say for something you need to achieve or something you need to get done, or you have no margin in your own life. And therefore, you just are really not hearing people. You don't take the time. And therefore, you're making assumptions. Then you're not making the right decisions because you don't have the right data. And so I think when the stress starts hitting, we a lot of times lose the ability to pause, listen, and then respond.
Less patience. And that's really what our people are feeling. They're like, you walked in, we don't want you to be here.
No, yeah, go home.
Yeah, please leave. We'll figure this out. But as a leader, we want to be needed. We want to be wanted in the space. But we can't function from a stress. We have to be able to manage that. It doesn't mean life doesn't throw stress at us. We just have an obligation to manage it differently.
Right.
We have to make sure we're proactive in recognizing what could be the stressor.
Absolutely.
And so we're managing those stresses. Our leaders listening, if you're a new leader, recognize that pressure that's coming at you and how you're managing that before you walk into the meeting. Because you're going to be short fused, you're going to be more demanding, you're going to have less patience, you're going to create more rules because you have less trust. And the reality is you're not trusting yourself in that moment and you're forcing it on others. So be very, very self-aware when you're functioning from a stress. You're not adding clarity, you're adding rules in most cases. What are we going to tell the leaders if they want to grow confidence, emotional intelligence, self-leadership? What does that look like? Give them just a value bomb they got to sleep with tonight.
So the value bomb, which is kind of silly maybe, but is pay attention. We can be so subconsciously doing things like how we drive. We just know how to drive. So we just get in the car and do it. And I always get on my team meeting and I always do the same things, but start paying attention. Be very intentional about who you are, how you felt, what did you think, how your thinking's driving some decisions. Start with being intentional to learn about yourself.
Yeah.
And see it's just a simple step, but it's not easy because we get in the rhythms of everything that we know to do because we always do it. So we just subconsciously do the same things, talk the same way, use the same tone, eat the same things. If you want to do something different, you want to learn more about yourself so that you can acknowledge where a blind spot might be.
Yeah.
Or how to lean into your strengths so that you can have a greater impact, pay attention. So it's the intentionality of you want something different, pay attention. It sounds silly.
Silly, simple thing. Have your brain right where your feet are.
Yep.
Be super present, that's going to change lives. It'll change lives. Lori, thank you for being the new co-host on Visionary Leader. I'm stoked to have you. We got to get off the show. We're at time. Thank you. We will be back on with a new show starting ASAP. New content coming your way. Thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in.